Hi, and welcome to today's episode of the AI Futures podcast series, where we are bringing you some of the world's best thinkers, entrepreneurs, researchers, business leaders, and policymakers from around the world. And today I'm excited to have with me Didier from Smart Africa. As the world thinks about how AI will shape humanity, one must know that the two biggest populations, the two youngest populations in the world, are India and Africa. And while at the India AI Impact Summit, there's of course been a lot of talk about how India is viewing its own engagement with AI. I'm excited to have Didier with me to help us provide a perspective on how countries in Africa, organizations in Africa, startups and entrepreneurs in Africa are thinking about AI and the amazing work that's happening on the ground. We've had several guests tell us about so many on-ground innovations happening in different countries in Africa. So I'm excited to have with us today Didier. Welcome, Didier.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Didier, I'm excited to have this conversation because I think that, one, from what I've been told, your organization's been doing great work there. The UN Secretary General's tech envoy, Amandeep Gill, had mentioned you as well. And then, of course, common friend who's working with you. I want to start us off with your view on how different countries in Africa, including your home country, Rwanda, how are you viewing what's happening in the world of AI? Is it with fear? Is it with a sense of we want to make sure we catch the bus? Is it that this might be something that can help us leapfrog or anything else? How's the general view towards AI? And maybe there are different ones, but tell us more about that.
Thank you very much. Africa sees really an opportunity of leveraging AI for its own digital transformation. Several years ago, already the continent was looking at the digital as an opportunity to accelerate provision of education, access to healthcare, increasing the output of and productivity,
Payments, mobile
mobile
that.
money,
Right.
and all of that. But AI become an accelerator. I was earlier referencing to India with a lot of similarity with Africa, right? 54 countries in the continent. In India, it's I think over 20, close
You're
to
about 29,
29.
30 odd states.
But a lot of similarities, different languages, over 2,000 languages and dialects, even more. A lot of diversity in the continent. But there is a sense of that it's an opportunity that the continent should not let go.
Yeah.
It comes with its own risks, but that's where also there are safeguards that are being put in place. Regulation to make sure that we get the most of AI without the bad side of AI, right?
Yes.
Because in any technology, there's good and bad. The same like the internet today, there's the good,
That's right.
and there's also dark web and bad application of the internet. Same also comes with AI. And so there is a strong sense of interest and optimism about what AI can bring.
What AI can bring.
Yeah, and
You know, in a book that I authored Didier a few years ago called The Great Tech Game, one of the pieces I mentioned there, I looked back into history and I looked at different big, what I call great games or eras, in which what leads a country or a region to be successful and prosperous has changed. At some point, for example, agriculture, mastering agriculture was very critical, moves on to like trade and global trade, and then of course, countries of Western Europe mastered infamous era of colonialism and right industrialization, right? And I talk about how today we're living through the great tech game, and that countries that might have missed the industrialization game must not miss the boat this time around. Except the other piece I found was that whatever game, the previous great game, if you have mastered it, then you have often an advantage in the new one, right? The flip side of that is if you had a disadvantage in the previous game, you're starting off with a disadvantage here, even though there are opportunities to leapfrog. So I wanted to ask you, do you feel there are some structural disadvantages that countries in Africa are still facing that prevent, because I think that's partly true in India as well, and that's why I'm asking of Africa, are there some structural disadvantages that you think countries in the African continent have to still overcome that maybe other countries, more developed countries in the West, don't have to?
I look at two things. The first thing is Africa is a fragmented country, fragmented around our own borders, right?
Yeah.
54, 55 countries. over 50 countries, and you realize that most of our laws, regulation, policies are around our geographical borders. And this has been one of the challenges, but also an opportunity. And that's one of the focus of Smart Africa is how do we remove those barriers? How do we create a single digital market? That's really our mission.
So how are you doing that at Smart Africa?
So we harmonize policies, we harmonize regulations, so that if, let's say, you're an Indian company, you're coming to Africa, you don't have to learn and then unlearn again when you go to another country to relearn.
Correct.
It's a lot of time lost and it's not good for business.
That's right.
So
it doesn't let you scale as easily.
Yeah, it create a lot of friction for scale. So what we've been doing, for example, is creating a harmonization of data regulations, harmonization of data protection regulations, so that it become a bit seamless and irrelevant, really, at the end of the day for a company, because they know that if they know it once, they know it to work. Or same like China or the US, where you have like one set of regulation. So it's a process that we're doing, and it's slowly removing the walls, progressively removing the walls and making them easier. The second thing I'll say, where we see also a challenge, and when I say challenge, I also always see opportunity, right? So it's also on energy. Energy has been generally a challenge in some of our economies. Yet at the same time, we one of the continent that has plenty of amount of energy, 365 days a year.
Yeah.
Right. We able to generate. We have so much in abundance that we can not only serve our need but also export. And there's been a lot of effort leveraging different sources of energy, geothermal, solar, wind, and many more effort.
Yeah.
Recently, Ethiopia launched one of the biggest dam that is producing capacity not only for Ethiopia, but it's serving more than half of what they're producing is going to serve the continent. So we see more and more opportunities because we believe it's one of the core infrastructure that need to be put in place, even for conversation about the AI compute power.
Yes.
And even more.
Yeah.
So there have been a lot of effort in that direction, attracting foreign capital investment in Africa to address the energy gap that currently exists on the continent.
Yeah. The other piece, the other theme that I want to touch upon, Didier, is at the India Impact Summit as well. I think this is the first summit, as I think all of us know, that's happening in the Global South. Prior summits have been in South Korea and the UK and France. And the Global South, cooperation between the Global South, within the Global South, is an important theme. So I want to ask you, what are some areas from the vantage point you occupy at SmartWorks and even otherwise? What are some, let's say, the top 2 or 3 things on which you feel countries like, let's say, India and countries on the African continent should be collaborating on that maybe they're not yet doing as much of?
So first of all, as Smart Africa, we play a unique role because we bring over 40 countries in the continent united. Correct. At the highest level, from the head of state, the ministers, and the entire public sector. So the ICT agencies, cybersecurity agencies, and now some AI agencies also being formed.
Do you have AI ministers also yet in Africa or not yet?
Not yet. But I believe that over the next 12 months, we'll have some new announcement where some ministers will be called Ministers of Digital Economy and AI, like the UAE.
Keep your team at Smart Africa safe, because some of them might be poached to become AI.
That's very true. So we see the good news for us is that they see that there is a collective opportunity. Why it's important? Because we're a larger market together. When we're in individual countries, we are way smaller. Some countries in Africa is 1 million people, or 0.5 million people. And there are other countries like Nigeria that has 230 million people.
Yeah.
Understand is one of your states. One of your states in India has the size of Nigeria. But when we come together, we're a bigger market. So what we've done recently, we've created an AI Council for Africa, which represent public sector, private sector, the big tech, some of the big tech, but also the big telecom companies like Orange, which is in 15 markets in Africa. And we are using a common approach. Why it's important again is because now we can talk to India.
Yes.
And then we can foresee in the very near future an opportunity to have a collaboration between Africa and India. and on common themes. Compute is one of them. We'd like to see how we can develop more compute capacity, and India has been evolving rapidly on that space. We working now also on learning, because everyone is learning, right?
Yes.
Including on the regulatory side, how do we balance it the proper way? On skilling, India has always been one of the homes of large-scale skilling. It's a certain time you're producing millions of engineers every year, right? So how do we learn from it? In discussion, for example, seeing how we can attract AI schools in Africa to really train. And
I believe IITs have set up a campus in Zanzibar, I want to say.
Exactly.
That's right.
So we are in a conversation that connect these with IIT and Wadwani that you certainly know, to see how we can actually bring some of these instances in Africa, because we have 800 million people who are below to 30 years old. It's massive.
No, I think it's a massive opportunity. I'll tell you a conversation I was having with someone who works on urban design and cities. We were looking at the projections of population of cities. And what massively struck me was, if current patterns continue, projections are that Lagos could be a city of 80 million people.
So do you know how many people will be in Africa by 2050?
What's the number?
We're looking at, so today we're 1.4, and by 2050 it will be 2.5 billion people.
Okay. Which is why I started our conversation with that. I think no conversation about AI actually today should be without understanding what the consumers of Africa, what the businesses of Africa, what the governments of Africa, people of Africa want, and how you are envisioning this. Because ultimately the future, I mean, of course, India is a massive consumer market, but I think Africa is going to be
the next
bigger
market. Yeah.
Correct. No, this has been delightful. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us today, Didier, and congratulations, I think, on all the great work you're doing. I think the point that you are trying to unify Africa as a common market,
Exactly.
right, I think is a massive, massive opportunity. And I think, great, it's something that maybe hopefully other regions can learn from also. Because I think there's many regions in the world where smaller countries might actually need to band together to form a stronger bloc. I think as we go along, and large tech firms from around the world, have a very different negotiating power sometimes with small governments versus big governments. So I think the work you're doing, I think, will have long-term positive ramifications for your market. So thank you for doing that, and it was a pleasure having you. We end every podcast with a quick question, which I have to ask you, which is books that you recommend for our viewers, any books, fiction, non-fiction, about AI or otherwise, and podcast guests that you recommend.
Well, interested a lot in books that talk about business. One of the books that's inspired me in several years ago was Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
That's right.
I know there's some aspect which can be a bit controversial, but yeah, it's and I will recommend anyone who would like to do a bit of entrepreneurship. Yes, to actually read that book. It will open up a lot of understanding.
Okay. And what about podcast guests?
Podcast guests?
Yeah, that you think we should have on the podcast subsequently, and maybe specifically from Africa, other folks who are doing great work, or who you look up to, who you'd like to listen to.
I will certainly recommend some of our ministers. So we have Minister Paula Irabire of Rwanda
at the summit,
and then also Minister Bosun of Nigeria.
Yes.
But when you start listing some people, it can also put you in trouble, because there are so many drivers. Exactly. Yeah. So I think that would be great to have them on the podcast and also to learn. But also we have some of our big tech players like Flutterwave, one of our biggest companies in Africa, and Paystack and others that are today unicorns, and they're offering services. So it would be good also to see the perspective of the business.
Yeah, and we'd love to continue that conversation. Thank you so much for being here. I hope the summit has been a productive one for you, and we hope to keep seeing you here, and hopefully you'll see more of us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.